Today, we are going to be visiting the future of the past. If this is your first time visiting this channel, my name is Christian McKittrick. I like to act and direct in my own short films, and I also like to talk about movies. As for today's video, I'm going to be watching The Transformers, the movie, from 1986 for the first time. Now, I guess let's just preface this with my kind of experience with the Transformers franchise. I've always been just kind of a admirer of the series. I've never really kind of like delved into it outside of seeing a few of the movies and seeing like one episode of a cartoon sometime like back a number of years ago. I always appreciated it. I thought it looked cool, but I just never really got into it. But I decided a few months ago to finally check out the original 80s cartoon. And I started and I really loved it. I've seen the first 2 seasons of it, and that means I have to come and watch this movie now. The movie is canon to the TV show, and it's spoken of very highly by many people, and I am excited to watch this for the first time. One of the things that made me really excited to watch this film, though, is the poster. The poster is really cool. It's just got all like these new characters who I don't know yet. Just kind of just like, you know, just standing in like all these like heroic poses, and it's also got a really cool tagline. It's beyond good, beyond evil, beyond your wildest imagination. Now that makes me want to watch a movie. I love cool taglines like that. So that's kind of like been one of the things that's kind of just like propelled me to kind of like want to watch this movie even more now. It's like seeing like a cool poster, you know? Another thing is apparently this movie is actually a lot darker than the very happy-go-lucky, like just kind of mellow 80s cartoon. Which is very like intriguing to me because like I'm thinking like how dark can this thing get? I'm aware of certain scenes of this movie already going into it. Like they're kind of like famous like pop culture zeitgeist moments, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm just kind of curious to see like the extent of all of this and like what people are talking about. Of course, I also know the infamous 80s power ballad, "The Touch" by Stan Bush. I've been aware of that song for a long time now, and it's a very kind of like I love the kind of just like the optimistic kind of just like, you know, you got the touch. I'm excited to see like kind of the origin of like where that song goes, because obviously that song kind of transcends like its time, and it's still fondly remembered by 80s kids and those that came after today. Alright guys, I'm gonna watch the movie now. As usual, I'll report back to you with what I find afterwards, because I think I'm gonna have a lot to say about this one. So with that, I'm gonna watch Transformers the movie from 1986. Alright, so I finished Transformers the movie, and I freaking loved it. It was awesome. I'd say this is probably one of the like most trippy animated movies I've seen. I'm about to go into detail of that, but just the amount of stuff, off the wall stuff that happened in this was just insane. Just you had all these characters dying, you had all the crazy things that come out of the ground, and just like space monsters, like oh my god, it was something else. So let's start off with a bit of the plot. So there's this big planet, like Decepticon, his name is Unicron, and he sets his sight on Cybertron, and kind of the final days, the Autobot Decepticon War. This movie takes place in 2005, so it'd been going for about like, well, in the cartoon, it goes for over millennia, but like at the time of the start of the 80s cartoon to here, it's roughly 20 years, give or take. So at the dawn of the final days of this, Unicron sets his sight on Cybertron and it's up to a group of Autobots to kind of go and stop him. So the plot is very it's very high stakes. There's a lot going on and a lot of characters and moving parts that go into it, but let's go into some of the nitty gritty. In terms of tone, the movie is very foreboding and weary, if I were to pick words to describe it. There's lots of shadows and just kind of ominous landscapes that you see throughout the film, and you can tell they had a higher budget here than when they worked on the show. And it shows through just the different like designs of the various like Autobots and Decepticons and just the various landscapes that you come across in the film. Something that this film kind of reminded me of is just in terms of like the general design of the whole thing. It reminded me a lot of the 1981 movie Heavy Metal, and just the overall just animation style and set design was very reminiscent of that film, especially like during the scenes in this, such as like the junkyard scene, just like with all just the different, just kind of like the kind of Wild West of of I guess just a more robotic world. Just kind of like gave me some serious like heavy metal vibes, and I thought that was pretty cool. One of the things people will remember most about this film is the body count. So many of the characters die in this movie, and very much in like some very disturbing ways, surprisingly. A lot of the original G1 cast like die in this as well. It's like characters like Ironhide, Ratchet, and like Starscream like all get killed off in like some very like brutal ways, and it's kind of ballsy like in like how they got away with doing this back then. Like normally like when characters get killed it's maybe like 1 or 2 at a time, but no, like this is like over like double digits like amount of characters like that get killed. It was kind of crazy like to watch, like thinking like seeing like how a lot of those characters died and kind of like got not replaced but kind of just like cleared the table to bring a bunch of new characters that we aren't familiar with to the forefront for the rest of the film. And I thought it was just kind of like a very just like out of nowhere thing, even though like I knew about this going in. And of course I can't ignore the big one, the death of Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime dies in this movie. I remember just kind of reading up a little bit about this because this is like, again, one of those kind of the pop cultural zeitgeist moments. The fact that they killed Optimus Prime kind of transcends like movie spoiler territory. Like I said, I knew about this going in, so I was prepared for it, but I didn't expect him to die so early in the movie. I thought he'd at least make it till the third act and kind of just like die going up against Unicron or something, but no, he basically like wins a shootout with Megatron and just gets hurt so much in the process, and you get a very touching scene with him and Hot Rod and Ultra Magnus and some of the other new characters, just kind of passing the torch in a sense to them. And it, like I said, this is I'd imagine this is very kind of disturbing for a lot of kids watching this back then, seeing like one of the pop culture heroes of like that just kind of like defined an entire generation just get killed off like that. And I thought, again, another really ballsy move that the filmmakers made for this film. One of the highlights of the movie for me though was Unicron, and not just Unicron as a character, but the fact that Orson Welles voiced Unicron. You wouldn't ever expect like the man who directed Citizen Kane to be in a Transformers movie, but he was there and he delivered a great performance. Like, Unicron is a very menacing, foreboding villain, and like his shadow kind of loomed over the course of the heroes over the course of the movie. And I thought that it was in part due to his very like deep, monstrous like voice that was provided by him. And I think that he made the movie all the better. And I also find it kind of intriguing that this was the last thing he did before he died. Like, Orson Welles' last movie was a Transformers movie, and I appreciate that he did that. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to the music of the film. The soundtrack was very rock-oriented, which I really appreciated because rock is one of my genres I like listening to. The stuff made by Stan Bush, again, the guy that wrote The Touch and performed it, was very well used in the film. And it provided some backdrops, some really cool and memorable sequences for me, as well as just like the general score of the movie. Like, kind of like helped like elevates it in my opinion, especially like the dichotomy between the kind of the more darker, just kind of like subject material that the characters are going through, as well as just like the kind of more uplifting music. So I thought that was just kind of really cool. And it deserved a shout out for me. Overall, I loved watching this movie. It's very far out, very crazy, just a lot of fun stuff happening. And it like sets up the rest of the Transformers cartoon and for where the show would go from here until the end of its run. And I look forward to watching more Transformers media because I've been really enjoying getting into the franchise a lot, and I can't wait to see what else it has in store. So if you like a kind of just more obscure pieces of 80s film and animation, I heavily recommend you check this out. It's a lot of fun. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed sharing my thoughts on this movie. Be sure to like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. I've got some pretty cool stuff coming pretty soon, including a new short film, so stay tuned for that, and I will catch you guys all next time, so take care.